Welcome back. I'm Dr. Cheek, and I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. And today I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different. I'm going to do a quick series on the things that I'm seeing right now in mental health that are a little bit challenging and problematic for me. And these videos are going to be interspersed in between me doing other mental health content. And these are just going to be my rants on what I see thus far in mental health and what I see right now that is problematic in the industry of mental health. Now, that primary one is that right now there are way too many internet therapists. And I air quote therapists because there are a lot of people right now on the internet who claim to understand mental health, who claim to understand human behavior, who don't have neither the training, the experience, or the expertise to be providing the level of information that they tend to provide people. And they talk as if they provided therapy to other individuals. And most of these individuals are not credentialed in a way to actually provide therapy to other individuals. And if you've ever done therapy before, you know that mental health and human behavior is not a one size fits all. It's not something that you can do and say, this is going to work for everyone. And right now on the internet, on social media, some of these individuals have simply either been to therapy themselves and are regurgitating the information they've learned. Some of these people are telling you what has worked for them, not necessarily what therapy they provided to other people that was therapeutic for that other person, but what they've done for themselves. And do not get me wrong, there is benefit in understanding somebody else's experience because you don't feel isolated. You feel like you're not going through these experiences by yourself. And that is helpful and that has its place, but that is not therapy. That is someone simply explaining to you what their experience was and then telling you how they got through that experience. Is that going to always work for you? No, because the beautiful thing and the most complicated thing about human beings is that no two people have the same story. And since no two people have the same story, what we learn when we go through training, when we continue to practice as therapists, when we do these things as actual therapists, we know firsthand that when you're telling someone or when you're implementing therapeutic strategies, it's not universal. It's not something that you can simply say, this works for everyone and you need to always do these things with these types of individuals. It's a matter of being able to be in that therapy room and get hit with somebody that's had a novel experience and knowing because you understand human behavior, because you understand mental health, that you can have that flexibility to be able to provide that guidance in the therapy room. Listening to some of these internet professionals or internet therapists, it is very clear that they do not or they have not ever done therapy with anyone else, most of the time outside of themselves, simply because the information they give is so person-centered or so self-centered or so centered around like individual experiences. And mental health and therapy is centered around understanding human behavior and mental health as a whole. Now, on top of these internet therapists who don't have the training, the expertise, or the experience to provide the level of guidance that they're trying to give other individuals, there's also individuals out there who are lying about their credentials. I know, it's crazy, right? You wouldn't think people on the internet lie. But they do, and they do very frequently. And unfortunately, some people lie about their credentials. Some people out there who are calling themselves therapists or who call themselves mental health experts or mental health professionals, some of them may not have any level of training in the field of mental health. Some of them may have a bachelor's or an elementary level of psychology and a master's in basket weaving and a doctorate in who knows what. But the problem with that is that a lot of them call themselves doctor such and such online. And when you call yourself a doctor, people inherently assume one or two things. They assume that you can either help them with their medical needs or their mental health needs. But an academic doctorate can be given in any field. What's problematic for me is that a lot of people who have a doctorate or who have a master's level degree in anything but mental health tend to focus on mental health and psychology as if that's what their doctorate or their master's level degree is pertaining to. And that's misrepresenting yourself. That's misrepresenting what your level of understanding and your level of expertise, and that's misguiding people who listen to you. And if you understood mental health, you will understand the damage that you can do for an individual who trusts or believes that the information that they're getting from someone who calls themselves a therapist or someone who calls themselves a doctor of mental health, the damage that can be done by someone listening to your advice that's coming from a place of wanting to help. And I'm going to just assume that it's coming from a place of wanting to help, but at the same time, it's not coming from a place of understanding the many facets of mental health, how the brain works, and how people process or deal with information, and how people respond or behave to certain information in certain mental health conditions. It's harmful in that you can give someone information that can make their symptoms worse. You can give someone information that goes against everything they're trying to work on, and they're going to listen to you because you're representing yourself as a mental health clinician on the internet. They're going to believe that what you're telling them is adequate or helpful information, when actuality, it may be a rudimentary or elementary understanding of psychology, and you're going with it because it sounds good or it feels like the right thing to say, when actuality is not helping, is doing more harm than good. I wish that most social media platforms had something that could identify when someone is actually a licensed professional or an expert in certain fields, so that people can know where they're truly getting their information from. Lastly, are those individuals who are maybe licensed as therapists or licensed as psychologists or other mental health clinicians, but they are also certified coaches, or either they aren't licensed as a mental health clinician, but they used to be licensed as a mental health clinician, but they now consider themselves a coach. Sometimes I see these individuals online giving information as if they're giving therapeutic information, when actuality, they're giving coaching information. And let's be really clear, coaching and therapy is not the same thing. They're both necessary and they're both needed. They have their value and they have their necessity, but they are not the same thing. So when you're online and someone is trying to give you therapeutic guidance, sometimes that information that they're giving you is from the aspect of a coach. And what bothers me the most is that some people will come into a therapy session expecting that same coaching experience where someone tells you what to do, and that's just not how therapy works. Therapy and coaching is different in this way. In therapy, the goal or the ultimate goal is for us as therapists to guide you through this process of learning how to maybe change your behavioral responses, understand your emotions, learn to make better decisions so you're able to strive and get the life you're wanting. The therapist guides you to a level of understanding and self-actualization so you're able to do the things you need to do to be healthy and productive in this life in a way that you want to be healthy and productive in this life. The therapist is not telling you in most cases what to do. They're not going to tell you in most cases what to do. The therapist in most cases will guide you and say, have you considered A, B, and C? And if you haven't, let's give that some thought. Let's see how that feels. Let's see what that looks like in real life. The goal with coaching is you're telling me that you're at point A and you're telling me that you want to get to point B. And you're also letting me know what obstacles are in your way that's keeping you from getting from point A to point B. So my job as a coach is to tell you the steps that you need to take to get from point A to point B. And in that process, if I also have therapeutic understanding, I might be able to help you see the emotional roadblocks that may come up along the way. And I might talk to you on how you manage those roadblocks to get from point A to point B. But my goal for you as a coach is how do you get from point A to point B? And I'm telling you exactly the steps that you need to take to get from point A to point B. And you don't have to take my word for it. Ask your therapist who also operates as a coach. Why did they choose to get a certification in coaching? Now, if they chose to get a certification in coaching because they want to coach leaders, I get that. 100% get that. I almost considered doing organizational psychology because with organizational psychology, you don't have to get licensed. You can still operate as a psychologist in the organizational field, and you can do those assessments for executives and do coaching for executives. And I'm going to be clear, it's some money in that field. It's truly some money in that field. So I will not put it past myself that may not be something I go back and get a certification in at some point. Just to be 100% honest. But also, are they certified in coaching so that they can help other mental health clinicians be more effective in therapy? Or are they coaches for mental health clients? If they are the latter, if they are primarily focusing on coaching of mental health clients and not clinicians or leaders, my question to them would be, if we're wanting to take this stance that therapy and coaching is the same thing, then why would you both do therapy and coaching? Because it takes a lot more effort to become a therapist than it does to become a coach. The certification process and the licensure process is a lot different. So understand that coaching and therapy is not the same thing. In therapy, you are going to get guidance. And let me be really, really clear. Therapy is not easy. Therapy is not something that's going to be quick. Therapy is not something that's going to happen overnight. And I will almost promise you, you will have an easier time trying to get a small kid to eat every vegetable on their plate than you will trying to get an adult to change their behavior and their emotional responses to things that are happening in their environment. So understand that therapy is not easy. And in therapy, the client does the work. The therapist is there to guide you, but the client does the work. And that is not easy. In coaching, I'm not going to say it's uber easy, but I'm going to say it's more simple. Coaching is a lot less process guided than therapy. Coaching is simply me telling you, as the expert in the room, how do you get from point A to point B? And because I have no emotional tie to the outcome, and because I'm not emotionally invested in the situation, as an observer, I can see a lot clearer how do you get from point A to point B, because I have no skin in that game. So my emotions are not tied to getting this outcome that you're wanting. So I'm able to take an objective approach to seeing how you need to get there. And with coaching, as a client, will you feel less stress? Yes, because 9 times out of 10, your stress is coming from not knowing how to get from point A to point B. And when we don't know how to get from point A to point B and we feel emotionally stuck, we can start to feel hopeless, and we start to feel a level of stress that feels very overwhelming. So if you got a professional there that's willing to tell you how to get from point A to point B, then yeah, your stress is going to be less. And I'm not saying that that's not an effective way to go. Sometimes we need coaching. But what I am saying is, for those who are online giving out information that is in the realm of coaching, that is not a therapeutic practice at all, I would like for you to be very clear with people that this is not what therapy is. You're representing therapy as if it's a coaching practice. Are there aspects of therapy that requires coaching? Yes, because there are aspects of therapy that requires that we model certain skills or coach you through using a skill that we talked about in session to actually use in real life. That is a thing, but that's not the primary goal. So again, both are necessary. Both coaching and therapy are necessary, but these internet personalities are not always giving you the advice from the perspective of what therapy is. They're sometimes giving you advice and providing information from the stance of someone who provides coaching, and they're not the same. So I know I'm saying a lot of problematic things about like internet mental health professionals, not necessarily mental health clinicians, but I do know, and I'm very clear that inevitably people will continue to take advice or take guidance from individuals who are not experts or even novice in what they're speaking to. Inevitably, people will listen to the man who has not had a healthy relationship, who's cheated on every relationship partner they've had, give them relationship advice. They will listen to this person tell them what men are looking for from women, although this person is someone who has cheated on every partner they've had, because this is the person that they're trying to attract. So what they're hoping is that what they're saying is something that will be helpful for them. When actuality, what this person is telling them is not necessarily what men are looking for. It may not even be necessarily what they are looking for. It's their thoughts or their understanding of what men may be looking for from their own view of relationships in general. But yes, people will still listen. Also, people will continue to follow the therapist that tells you, the internet therapist that tells you that in order for you to find peace, you just need to cut off anybody that's actually getting in your way. Cut off anybody that's actually causing you any level of stress, because how dare they? When actuality, what you probably need to learn is how to set appropriate boundaries with people around you so that you don't feel the need to cut everyone off, so that you're able to have a healthy relationship with the people around you. I want you to be really clear and understand that even if you don't like people, we as human beings are still social creatures, and we still thrive off of social interaction. So we do not want to be isolated. We don't want to be alone. We do want to continue to have people around us. We do want to have those supports. We do want to have those interactions. So the idea of just simply cutting off anybody that disturbs our peace, it's not the healthiest way to live. And it's not the healthiest way to have great interpersonal relationships or social relationships. Also, you're going to most likely listen to the therapist that tells you that coping skills are BS. Coping skills, self-care is just something that people do to avoid dealing with their ish. Like, why we need to focus on that? And you'll more than likely follow the therapist that simply says, suck it up, buttercup. What you need to learn how to do is actually learn how to deal with stress. Stress is a part of life. It ain't going nowhere. So what you need to do is not worry about that coping and that self-care. You need to figure out how to actually deal with the stuff that's going on around you. Sounds good, right? Because most of us already feel that way. Most of us already feel like, if I could simply learn how to just take on all of this stress that I'm dealing with, if I can just learn how to put my head down and just keep pushing forward and moving forward and get to the resolution, then I think everything will be straight. But that's not how mental health works. That's not how healthy problem solving, effective problem solving, that's not how any of that works. It sounds good, and we're going to listen to them because they are talking to a part of us that we already feel. They are backing what we are already feeling. So we're going to listen because it feels true. And also, people are going to more than likely continue to follow that person that says they are neurodivergent because they have diagnosed themselves with ADHD. And yes, I said diagnose themselves. People self-diagnose all the time. So they've diagnosed themselves with ADHD when in actuality, they're probably probably experiencing elevated anxiety coupled with a complex trauma history. But I'm not going to deal with that. It's just the neurodivergence and the ADHD that's causing me to feel how I'm feeling. And people are going to follow them because, unfortunately, in today's internet, in today's information world, we quickly pick up on buzzwords, on catchphrases, and we hone in on that. And anybody talking about it or anybody standing there experiencing it, we're ready to listen to, because it's the new shiny mental health term of the year. And unfortunately, neurodivergent happens to be the new shiny mental health term for this year. So hopefully you've gotten some information that's helpful out of today's video. What I hope you hear more than anything is that if you're listening to internet personalities, if you listen to people give you mental health advice online, be clear about who you're getting advice from. And if you're going to be a person who gives mental health advice online, be clear about who you are. Be clear about what your actual credentials are and what your actual skill level or your skill set is. Hopefully you're able to be honest about who you are. And if you're not, do your research to figure out if you're listening to someone who actually knows what they're talking about, or if you're just listening to someone that just thinks they know what they're talking about. And there's a lot of people out there that think they know what they're talking about. As always, feel free to jot down any thoughts, questions, or comments you have below. I hope you got some information from today. It's simply just a rant, the things that have been bothering me. I thank you for taking the time to listen, and I'll be seeing you again very soon. Thank you.